check. All right. Good morning. Whoa. There we go. Good morning. Good morning. Oh. Good morning, and good morning to you. Facebook, good morning. Dothan, Alabama. Why is this mic not working? What's going on? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning. It's 11 o'clock. You know what time it is. Time for Real Talk with Herschel, live from Dothan, Alabama. Now, those of you watching us on Facebook, I'm going to ask that you start your watch parties, invite your friends. Get your mama, get your daddy, get the children. Get the children. Get your seatbelt and your coffee, and let's get ready to roll. Now, as we start every show, we're going to get the legal stuff out of the way first. You're listening to Real Talk with Herschel, live on WKCG 99.1 on your FM dial, Dothan, Alabama. Now, the views expressed today on this show are those of me and any guests that I may have, and do not necessarily reflect the views of TOPS, WKCG, and or its management. So, if you have any thoughts, concerns, or comments, please send them to realtalkwithherschel@gmail.com. realtalkwithherschel@gmail.com. We got a lot of feedback here. All right, appreciate y'all. I see y'all coming in. Come on in, come on in, come on in. Now again, we usually start with music, but thanks to Facebook and Sony trying to mute my videos, we found some ways around that because we got a lot of work to do here, and we are not going to let no one monkey stop this show. Now, what this show is about, Real Talk, is a vehicle to get our community information, a vehicle to help uplift our community, a vehicle to help change and control our narrative. It is a vehicle for us to uplift and uphold our community, to uplift our women, children, and our men. It is a place for us to strategize and come together in love. This place, this show, make no mistakes, is about black power and black nationalism. Black power and black nationalism. Make no mistakes about it. I do this every Saturday before I start my show, so that there are no mistakes about what we are here to do, and to explain what black power and black nationalism is all about, so that no one can hijack my message or our message and say that we're about something other than what we're about. Black power is about love. Love of oneself, love of one's people. Black power is about controlling your life. Black power is about self-reliance, self-defense, and self-determination. Black power is about love. It's not about hate, it's about love. It's not about taking over the government. We're going to get into that in a little bit later on. It's not about overthrowing the government. It's not about getting get back. It's about getting equality and dignity for our people. Black nationalism is about controlling your that come in to our community, the resources that come into our community, the way that we live and the way that we die. The laws that we are governed by, we should have a say in. Not should, we're supposed to have a say in. How do you live by someone else's rules and then make them up as they go along? Black nationalism is about controlling our own communities, our own destiny, our own lives, and our own set of morals and practices. It's about equality. It's not about taking over anything other than our own lives, controlling what we do and how we do it, not being told how we should and shouldn't live, who we should and shouldn't associate with, what we should and shouldn't say. Black nationalism is about equality, to be treated as equals. That's what black nationalism is about. You cannot deal with someone that has power over you. You have to have your own power in order for people to deal with you fairly and honestly. And we know that this place that we live in has done neither of the two. Now, that's what this show is about. Black power, black nationalism, and being unapologetically black. Understand what I'm saying to you. Should never have to be apologetic about being black, about being who you are and what you are. You should never have to apologize for being dark-skinned, or having coarse hair, or wearing your clothes the way that your culture dictates, or the way that your culture sees fit. No one should tell us how to wear our hair, or our clothes, what music to listen to, what we should and shouldn't believe in. Just like anyone else on this earth, we have a right to do the things that we feel are necessary for our survival and our lives and our own happiness. All right, Carl Chapman, I see you. Come on with it. Now, I've gotten that out the way. We're going to start off today. Instead of music, I want you to ponder this question. I posed it before, and I'm going to pose it again. What does freedom look like to you? What does freedom look like to you? You know, we discuss things, and we all know the history of this country and the history of us being here. So I will ask that question as I play this speech of Kwame Ture. I want everybody to listen in and ponder that question. All right, what's going on here? All right, hold on 1 second. We got a little technical difficulty here. And there we go. Where's it at?
One of the categories which interests those of us who are concerned with advancing humanity the most is that between the conscious and the unconscious.
You're listening to Kwame Ture. Don't just mobilize, organize.
The conscious and the unconscious must be properly understood. The people instinctively love freedom, and they will instinctively fight freedom.
All right, Facebook. Thanks for
But you
tuning in.
cannot win freedom on instincts. You can only win freedom on reason. Therefore, the unconscious are those who react on instinct. The conscious are those who react on reason. The job of the conscious is to make the unconscious conscious.
Hit that like button. Share with your friends.
I think it was in 1992, after one more brutal beating too many, the African population in Los Angeles, California revolted, rose up in righteous rebellion. This was instinctively revolutionary. Instinctively in the sense that it wasn't planned. Instinctive in the sense that it was just reaction to brutality. And this instinctive revolutionary act was very costly to American capitalism. They even had to bring in the American army. Very costly. But since it was an instinct, it had no reason, nothing to direct.
What's going on, Eddie?
It would spin itself out.
Appreciate you tuning in.
Those who participated were
Mr.
largely
Chapman?
unconscious.
Like and share.
We must come to understand that the overwhelming majority of our people are unconscious. But just because they're unconscious, you shouldn't think they don't want freedom. As a matter of fact, sometimes the unconscious is quicker willing to give their lives in struggle than the conscious. These are simple facts. Would you imagine what it would be like when we are conscious rebellious, when we consciously organize to rebel in Los Angeles with reason? I mean, making supply lines, making sure armaments are there, having hospital aids, having fire brigades, just like they do even in Ireland. Nothing big, just a little planning. Just a little planning. This is what we want to speak to you about this evening. Making the unconscious conscious. the very beginning, the only, underline the word only, the only route to consciousness is through struggle. Now, for example, we've shown you the unconscious struggle. Those who rose up in righteous rebellion.
Hey, Edith, how you doing, darling?
They were
Long time no see. Glad to see you back.
They were involved in struggle. Unconscious, but involved in struggle. The consciousness understand precisely what their task is, and we've said this 2 years ago here, we repeat it. Ours is not to teach the people to be conscious, but to make them conscious of their unconscious behavior. Our task is not to teach the conscious to teach the unconscious to be conscious, but to make them conscious of their unconscious behavior. Because unconsciously, instinctively, they seek freedom. What we must do is make them conscious. Look, you want freedom anyway, let's be serious. Let's sit down, let's stand, let's wage protracted war, and let's tear down the system and walk on to liberation. It's as simple as that. This aspect of the unconscious becoming conscious is linked to mobilization and organization, something we mentioned last year. We must make clear distinctions between mobilizers and organizers. To be an organizer, you must be a mobilizer. But being a mobilizer doesn't make you an organizer. Much confusion is to be found here. Malcolm X was a great mobilizer. He was a great organizer. Martin Luther King was a great mobilizer. He was not a great organizer. These facts can be easily seen from King and Malcolm. When Malcolm went to a place, he left a mosque. When King went to demonstrations, he broke down desegregation and he moved on. As a matter of fact, King was not concerned with organization to the point that even though he was the most popular Baptist preacher in America, without the shadow of a doubt, and probably beyond the shadow of a doubt, the most loved, he could not become president of the National Baptist Convention. Yeah, so many of them. The National Baptist Convention. As a matter of fact, if my memory serves me correctly now, and I remember it was Muhammad Speaks that carried the album on the front page in 1964, when King tried to become president of the National Baptist Convention. There was so much confusion there that a minister was actually pushed off the stage and died. And of course, King lost. The man who won was a reactionary man by the name of Jackson. He never did nothing for the people, never cared about the people, just was a pork chop minister who used their money to put gas in his big Cadillac. But he was organized. We said that we must come to know the difference between mobilization and organization because the enemy will use mobilization to demobilize us. Mobilization is very easy. Very, very easy. But since we're people who are instinctively ready to respond against acts of injustice, anytime there's one little act of injustice, we can blow it up and we'll find people who come and make some mass demonstration around it. Miss Sally lost her job. Let's rally. She'll get her job back. People will come and rally. So-and-so got kicked out of school because the teacher's unjust. If unjust, people will come and rally. They will come to rally at issues. And this is what mobilization does. It mobilizes people around issues. Those of us who are revolutionary are not concerned with issues. We're concerned with the system. The difference must be properly understood. The difference must be properly understood. Mobilization usually leads to reform action, not to revolutionary action. If we would look scientifically...
Again, you can follow us on YouTube as well. Real Talk Rehearsal on YouTube.
This was a mobilized
as well as Twitter, Real Talk HG. If you have any thoughts, comments, or suggestions, please send them to realtalkrehearsal@gmail.com and we will address your concerns.
That it is temporary. Organization is permanent and eternal. Clear differences must be made because the unconscious can usually be captured easily around one-issue items, around mobilization items, but it's hard to catch them around organization. But these unconscious must be brought to organization. We must transform mobilization to organization. We say the enemy will come and use mobilization to demobilize us. Many brothers and sisters who've been to the Million and More March will say to you, I was there. But what are you doing today, my sister? I was there. There weren't too many sisters out there, but you know, with a million brothers together, you know where I had to be. I was there. And then, of course, you find brothers, yeah, I was there. I know you. What are you doing today, brother? If we're not careful, we allow mobilization to become events. The struggle is never an event. It's a process, a continual, eternal process.
That's right.
We say it's our job to use mobilization to drive us to organization. You know our theme is organization. We want power. We don't want money. We don't want fame. We don't want fortune. We don't want popularity. We want power. Power. And power comes only from the organized masses. Power comes only from the organized masses.
Power only comes from the organized masses. You hear that? Power only comes from the organized masses. That was Kwame Ture in his speech. Don't just organize, don't just mobilize, organize. Again, you're listening to Real Talk with Herschel, live, WKCG 99.1 on your FM dial, Dothan, Alabama. Now, I asked a question before, like I said, what does, I'm sorry, I'm multitasking here, and I hit something. I asked before, what does freedom look like to you? Because what happens is, part of the problem is, we have never seen true freedom for our people. So, again, as black people, the first precondition of freedom is the captivity, is the capacity to structure our lives separately from white authority and white permission. So again, what we want, or what you should want to realize what true freedom is to be from under the thumb of a colonizer or white supremacy telling you what to do, how to do it, or looking to them for approval in the things that we do. We have been taught to seek approval from, I'm not going to say it like that. We've been taught to seek approval from white people, not to do things that are going to upset the status quo. And this is all at the cost of losing who and what we are. The first precondition of freedom and black power, liberation and decolonization. And that it's not only in the physical, you have to free your mind. You have to decolonize your mind. You have to stop seeking white approval. You have to develop your own yardstick, our own yardstick. We have to decide what's good for us. Free from thinking that it's going to upset white folks or it's going to upset the status quo. Because we are the ones being killed in the streets. We are the ones being dragged out of our homes. We are the ones being starved out. We are the ones that are being set against one another. We are the ones that are being over-policed and under-serviced. We are the ones that are being marginalized. Our voice being quelched by denying us our so-called civil rights, the right to vote in a free society, the right to assemble, the right to bear arms, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We are the ones that are being denied that. So until we have those things, there is no liberation. Those are the precursors for liberation. Those are the precursors. We have to respond to the things that are going on in our society. Mass incarceration, enslaved patrol policing, which is this system that we have in place, that we live under. Vote or die, people die for your right to vote. It's a way to keep you enslaved. Because here's the thing. What did black people ask for of a Democratic candidate? We asked for our leadership, whatever you want to call it, asked for a black running mate. Not the end to mass incarceration, not an end to police brutality, not an end to policing as it is, not an end to discrimination. We asked, or it was asked on our behalf, for a black running mate, a black vice president. Which, again, is it going to give us power to control our lives? Is it going to give us power to raise our children properly? Is it going to give us the power to decide how we live and how we die? Is it going to give us the power that we need to better our own communities? Is it going to give us power to welcome back those that have been incarcerated and taken from us? Is it going to give us power to restore them? These are the things, if you're going to ask for something or demand something, it is power. It is not a hollow gesture to have a black face in the place. Again, I don't tell people not to vote. I don't purport to tell people what to do. The only thing that I'm saying to you is whatever mechanism that you use, make sure that you are using it wisely and to the advancement of our people, is all that I'm saying. They spend a lot of money to take away our ability to vote. They close polling places, they impose taxes, they do things to take away our right to vote. And then those of us that do vote, they give us empty and hollow promises. The only way to change that in a system as it exists is to have a large enough voting block, a block of power. When people go to their politicians, lobbyists, and communities, they go in numbers. They have an agenda. They have an ask, whether it be equal marriage rights, whether it be bridges being built in their community, roads being fixed, whatever it is, they have an ask or a demand. And they have a block of power. Where is our power as a people that are still under the colonial thumb of white supremacy? We have no power. We have no power. You know, you have to ask yourself, are we any closer to liberation when we tell our people the only reason to mass incarceration and slave posting is voting? Are we closer to freedom than we are when we frame legislative struggle as though the system works for us? Are we closer to freedom when we castigate black youth for not respecting white property? Here's the thing. We do all these things, and it's not gotten us anything. We can't define what freedom looks like if we assimilate into this American society. Because freedom is being able to be who you are. Freedom is being able to be proud of your culture. Being black in America is not a point of pride as far as America is concerned. You can be a proud Confederate and fly a flag of a group of states that fought against the United States and be proud of your heritage. The sons and daughters of the Confederacy, right here in the state of Alabama, there's a state holiday for the Confederacy, a Confederate Memorial Day. You can be proud of your culture and your heritage. But if I fly my black liberation flag, I am deemed non-patriotic. I am deemed a troublemaker. And all I want is the freedom to be proud of who and what I am. Because it's obvious I'm not an American. Because when that Declaration of Independence was written, my family and your family were not invited to the party. We were in shackles. We have to understand the damage that we do when we continue to try to assimilate into a system that doesn't want us. We have to be mindful of these things when we try to assimilate into a system that is set up to destroy us, to pit us against one another. Why do you want to be a part of that system? Why would anybody want to be a part of a system that disparages their culture, that disparages and criminalizes your very existence? A system that starves you out, a system that incarcerates you and uses you for slave labor in these prisons, a system that overpenalizes you just for your skin. Why would you want to assimilate into something like that? That's not freedom, that's bondage. That's bondage. A lot of us, or some of us, have the illusion of inclusion. I've made it. I'm doing all right. I am okay. Until they come into your home. Until some officer believes that you don't deserve, as a black woman or a black man, to drive such a nice car or to live in such a nice neighborhood. How dare you? Then you are no different than anybody else with that same black skin. But you made it. We cannot fall for the illusion of inclusion. We have to stand up together. Because if one is not free, then none of us are free. Because the same things that befall these people that we march and protest for, these fallen people, these political prisoners, people that are kidnapped and held by the state on made up and erroneous charges, it can happen to anyone. And all I'm saying is don't wait for it to happen to you personally before you are outraged to do something about it. Again, this is Real Talk with Herschel, live WKCG 99.1 on your FM dial. Now again, we're simulcasting on Facebook to expand our audience. And you see before you a singular man, but I am not by myself. All the thoughts that I speak, all the things that I say are not just mine. This is a collaborative effort. My producer always is nearby. He doesn't like to be on camera. He does like to be heard. But due to this pandemic, We're trying to get back to normal, and now we are broadcasting from the radio station again. And you will again hear Antoine's voice very shortly, for those of you that have followed the show since its inception. You have to organize with other people. We have to learn to network with one another. We have to break down all the stereotypes and all the things that we've been taught to distrust one another, that we can't work with one another. This is all propaganda and lies. This is all propaganda and lies. Since desegregation, it has gotten worse, not better. There was a time when black people had no choice but to work together because we were segregated. Regardless of your social, economic condition or station, neighborhoods had professionals as well as blue-collar workers, as well as the unemployed. Those neighborhoods don't exist anymore. You had black flight in the 70s, where upwardly mobile black folks left the neighborhoods, leaving them impoverished, never to return. Had people scratching and clawing to get out of the neighborhoods, which is not necessarily I don't begrudge anyone for wanting to do better. But when you take all the resources out of a community as opposed to bringing them back and helping build up your community, you only build up others and keep yours poor and destitute. All the black professionals, all the black educated persons leaving our communities, never to return. That's what creates ghettos. That's what becomes that helps further black poverty, because all the resources, all the human resources, all the physical resources are gone. We have to learn to take care of our own, because no one else will do it. Elderly mobile blacks are being targeted just like anyone else. And we have to understand that. The thing that draws us together is our blackness. Right, wrong, or indifferent, this is the thing that bonds us. And we have to use it to our advantage. You have to leave your religion home. You have to leave your political beliefs at home. Because these things are going to divide us. And as long as we're in bondage, I don't think that an enslaved man or woman has a right to ponder anything other than their freedom first. Because we're fighting over things that are not ours. We argue over politics that are not our politics. We argue over policies that we don't enjoy because the money is not trickling down into our communities. Our streets are not being paved. Our water supply is not being cleaned properly. Our food supply is being negated and blockaded by the powers that be. These are the things that we need to work on. And that's the uplifting of all of our people. Again, we are not talking about taking over government. We are not talking about killing and kidnapping public officials. We are not talking about that. We are talking about the equality and the equal treatment of our people in this place that we live. And we cannot get that if we stay divided by religion, political thoughts, social thoughts, or anything else. Our thoughts and our actions have to be singular. And that's the liberation of all of our people. How do you sleep at night when you know that your neighbor's son has been railroaded into prison for something he did not do? Well, how do you feel when your cousin or your uncle or your brother is locked up for 20 and 30 years because he was trying to feed his family and couldn't get hired because he was black. Or a mother turns to drugs or the streets to sell her body because she has hungry children. She's criminalized, but she can't get assistance from the government that's supposed to assist single parents and children. We criminalize them all ourselves as well. Shame on you. Shame on you. We have to work together. We have to uplift one another. Because we are all we've got. We see so many instances where black people will turn against us. And the powers that be will use them until they're used up and discard them. Then they won't come back home. We can't continue to do this. The cycle has to stop. The most important thing that we should be fighting for is our liberation. Our liberation. Our liberation. Our power. Our autonomy to control how we live and how we die. Not seeking permission from the powers that be if it's okay for us to live in certain places. If it's okay for us to dress a certain way. If it's okay for more than 2 or 3 of us to congregate without being criminalized as thugs and categorized as thugs or troublemakers. Not being categorized as a troublemaker because you speak up for the rights of our women and our children. Not being criminalized because you want a fair shot just like everyone else. These are the things that ought to be in the forefront of our mind. These are the things that we need to follow. Again, you're listening to Real Talk with Herschel, WKCG 99.1 on the FM dial. All right, Facebook, I see y'all out there. Appreciate y'all tuning in. We're going to keep it moving. Sorry, we don't have music. Sony and Facebook, I guess they don't like the message, so they muted the whole video 2 weeks ago. The whole video on one song. So we won't play any music. We're gonna have some speeches.
It is a plot in which the arc of change is always going resolutely toward freedom. It is a plot in a geographic sense. It is a plot in which we aim to make all space, not just some space, free in 2 senses. Free in the sense that it cannot be alienated, which is to say sold by anybody to anybody, and free in the sense of non-exclusive. There is no boundary or border that would keep somebody in or keep somebody out. That is abolition, that's the plot, that's my plot. It is an internationalist impulse that is part of what many of us
You're listening to Dr. Ruth Wilson Gilmore. Dr. Ruth Wilson Gilmore.
Black people. I'm going to talk about the criminals because your innocence will not save you, as Nancy's remarks should have indicated by now. And I will talk about a couple of actions that happened in California recently to give meat to my observation. In the California state prisons, recently, over the last couple of years, at the same time that North Africa and West Asia were exploding into well-documented in the mainstream media in the USA uprisings, there was an uprising that was organized as a hunger strike. This uprising was organized by prisoners who are in indefinite detention inside prison. So they're already convicted, they're doing time, and then they're doing time indefinitely inside the prison. They're in a prison in the prison. They're in what's called
You're
a
listening to
security
Dr.
housing
Ruth
unit, which some of you might
Wilson
know about.
Gilmore.
It's a form of a
Don't
prison
reform prisons,
innovated
abolish
in former West Germany, where in the absence of the death penalty, the forces of both state and corrections in West Germany were trying to figure out how to wipe out the Red Brigade. They caught the Red Brigade, they tried and convicted those people, but they couldn't execute them because they didn't have a death penalty. And the purpose of the shoe was to reduce death in the people locked in it. And that is what it does. It makes people crazy. Everybody knows that it is a violation of human rights to keep anybody in solitary confinement for more than 15 days. And there are people who have been in the security housing unit in California.
Absolutely right.
Years.
Mr. Thornton,
And they can never
glad
get
to see you in
out.
the place, baby.
I've talked to many times. He's been in the hole since 1973. The prisoners in the security housing unit are divided by race and region, and this is part of a deliberate plan by the California Department of Corrections to keep people apart inside. The department innovated this process not just as a reflection
Keep fighting the fight there,
of
Dave.
outside, even though we know that the U.S. was segregated by race and class now than it was in 1960. They innovated this kind of division inside to break apart radical prisoner organizing that was the hallmark of prisons in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, as many of you might know, either from memory or from study. And in dividing the prisoners into these groupings by race and region, they effectively established prison gangs inside and then fomented warfare between them. They did this, the Department of Corrections, in order to get the prisoners' minds off the oppressor, the guards, and onto each other. That plus television worked. It worked very well. So the prisoners have been in the hole now for decades and decades and decades. They put forward demands in that their hunger strike was the force behind, asking for rather simple, straightforward things. They asked for a way to get out of indefinite detention without doing one of three things, which is the only way to get out now. You snitch, you parole, or you die. Right? They said, we don't want to snitch. Many of us will never parole. We're doing life. But we don't want to die now. So give us a way to get out. They asked for adequate nutrition because as the prison system has grown and grown, it's figured out ways to squeeze. It's totally public. Totally public. It's totally public. Write that down. Figure out ways to squeeze resources out of the bodies of prisoners so that the resources that circulate through the prison will circulate mostly in the form of wages to both guard and non-guard staff and to pay the utilities to those cities because the prison is a city. And the prisoners asked for some other things as well. The Department of Corrections cavalierly refused to meet the prisoners' demands and offered a counter-proposal that was insulting at best. However, tens of thousands of prisoners throughout the California state system and some in systems beyond California joined the hunger strike in solidarity with those in the security housing. When the Department of Corrections response came out, the department, of course, then hunkered down for some kind of violent uprising. That's not what happened. Not surprising. The prisoners who are in solitary confinement, who actually spend 23 hours a day locked in their cell, who sometimes get to go 1 hour a day and walk up and down in a little pen that you wouldn't even put your dog into if you had a dog, to put in a pen. People who have never seen the horizon in all the years that they've been locked up. Those people put together a new set of demands. And their new demands, instead of going vertically up to their keepers, were sent out horizontally to everybody else locked up in all the kinds of things that they came. And they sent out demands horizontally to end the hostilities between the races. This is huge. It's huge because the people who have been locked inside, who have in one way or another, wittingly or not, participated in the race and ethnic war that the department fomented in order to secure itself as a department, have now seen and refused to be participants in that anymore, and have sent word out to the communities they come from to do the same kind of thing. This is a very frightening thing in the United States of America, where our division is always very important for the security of racial capitalism and the contemporary neoliberal state. So I call that to your attention. The second case I want to describe to you very briefly are gang injunction zones. And these are places that are outside of prisons and jails. They're in communities. It is a form of spatial control that is enacted through civil law, not criminal law, civil law. And what civil law does is to divide up the spaces of the communities, of the cities and municipalities and neighborhoods, where people who have been convicted of certain crimes, some of their associates and some of their associates' are forbidden to go. Now, many people imagine that what gang injunctions do is keep, low-income, mostly male persons of color out of, say, gentrified areas. That's not what it does. Divides up people and separates people from their communities, from their neighborhoods, from their streets, from their households, from their families. That's what gang injunctions do. So people have been organizing all over the United States to fight against gang injunctions, and I don't have time to give you the history of gang injunctions, but it goes pretty much hand in hand with the history of the Security Housing Unit that I laid out for you in the case of the California Department of Corrections. Now, as I think I said earlier, and if I didn't, I should have said, and I'll say again, innocence doesn't save anybody. So making an argument that one is not a criminal, and therefore we know who the criminals are, is not going to save one single person. None of the people we advocate for, and certainly not ourselves. Because if an injury to one is an injury to all, that means, among other things, that the criminalization of one is the criminalization of all, and we should take that seriously. I see that my good friend Claude Cummings is here, and he's going to be speaking this afternoon, and he might bring up in greater detail what I will describe to you very briefly. The New York City Terrorism Interdiction Unit, not unlike the Boston one that Nancy was describing, that unit, somebody inside that unit, leaked to us on the outside a one-day brief from that unit to the chief of police, to Ray Carter. On that one-day brief, one single day, 2008, right, like April something, 2008. It started with, in the wake of the acquittal of several police officers in the murder of Sean Bell, the police are to watch a certain independent black mosque. Then it goes through critical resistance, Desi's Rising Up moving, the Gina 6, which is in Louisiana. It mentions by name a number of people in critical resistance and in other organizations. Goes on for 2.5 pages. And toward the end, the target is Muslim student organizations in the City University of New York, and particularly a vacation that a group of students took that one of the spies went along on, when they went upstate New York, went rafting, prayed, and talked about religion. That's one day's report. So the connection between all of this and the impossibility of making a bright line between criminals, people who have been convicted of crimes and those who haven't should be apparent. Civil death stalks the land. Human rights might be the response to civil death, as Malcolm X argued, but that answer has got to be aspirational human rights in the form of abolition, not the scientific sort of human rights that is being practiced today as though they were technical response to every problem. I don't like to call the kind of human rights that are being practiced today that condone 29 people being killed by a drone, but not 31, lawfare. And we cannot succumb to lawfare in order to try to reach our goals. Innocence is no defense. Abolition is the only offense against the human sacrifice that brought us here together today. Thank you.
All right, and that was Ruth Wilson Gilmore. Don't reform prisons, abolish them. Again, you're listening to Real Talk with Herschel, WKCG 99.1 on your FM dial. Now, the thoughts expressed today on this show are those of me and whomever I may have on as a guest, and do not necessarily reflect the views of TOPS, WKCG, and or its management. Now, I say all that to say that if you have any complaints, comments, suggestions, please direct them to realtalkwithherschel@gmail.com. All one word, realtalkwithherschel@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Facebook. Our Facebook page is Real Talk, Real Power. You can also follow us on Twitter, Real Talk HG. And if you'd like to see the show, we have it broken down in snippets. We also have speeches and other community events on YouTube, Real Talk with Herschel on YouTube. Again, if you have any thoughts or comments, you can leave them either on Facebook or YouTube, or send them right to the email. We also have a website that's up and running that we started in February, 1st of February actually, which is realtalkrealpower.org. realtalkrealpower.org. Our website holds good information for our community, resources, groups that you may want to join, or contact to model your own group to start. Hey, Ms. Jivians, glad to see you back in the house too. So again, we encourage people to go to our website. If you have anything that you'd like to see on the website, or if you have any questions, please contact us at realtalkwithherschel@gmail.com. And again, our website is realtalkrealpower.org. Okay? Now, back to the topics that we have on the agenda for today. We get new figures from the Alabama State Legislature in addition to the possible $800 million to build 3 new prisons. We talked about this last week. They found $800 million to build 3 new prisons. 3 new max prisons. This is an estimated figure. And now mind you, this is just the building, like we talked about last week. These are going to be private prisons, and they're going to be leased. So once they spend the $800 or so million to build these facilities, they're going to have to pay the lease on these facilities. I've seen some figures that say that it's going to be somewhere around 90 million per year. And they're talking about doing a 30-year contract, which comes to about $2.7 billion of taxpayer money. $2.7 billion with a B dollars over 30 years. This is what they're trying to negotiate. While our schools are being closed, while our social programs for our children, our after-school programs for our children, our training programs for our children and our adults have been cut, have been defunded, while the music programs are being taken out of our school systems, while the arts in our school systems are being taken out. These are the things that this $800 million to build could build. How many schools could be renovated with this $800 million? In the state, this is just the state of Alabama. $800 million. How many schools could be renovated? How many computers could be purchased for our students? How many raises could be given to the outstanding teachers that are in the system that are being underpaid? Lunch programs, prenatal care. There's so many programs that could use a shot in the arm from this same $800 million to build. Again, just to build prisons to incarcerate black folks. I quoted a number last week that we make up about 13% of the total population of this country. And we make up 35% of the incarcerated people in this country. That is insane. The U.S. incarcerates more people per capita than any place in the world. And Alabama is at the top of that list. Alabama is at the top of the list for incarceration per capita. So again, why are they incarcerating us? Because there's money in it. No qualms about it, because there's money in it. Prison leasing still goes on, even though it's been outlawed, allegedly. These prisons are going to be privately owned. They're going to make furniture. They're going to have call centers. They're going to do all kinds of things and make all kinds of products and not pay the prisoners. Or pay them so far below minimum wage it may as well be nothing. This prison industrial complex, this thing that we are subject to, there is no reform for it because it's working the way that it was set up to work. You know, people keep calling for reform. You cannot fix that which is not broken. It was set up the way that it's set up to inflict pain and to inflict hardship. It is not a correctional facility. There is no corrective counseling going on. There is no correction going on so that if you did break the law, that you would be able to rejoin society and be a productive member of society. The system is set up for you to reoffend. The system is set up to keep you isolated from your community. The system is set up for you to continue to go back in until they can keep you. We are already over-prosecuted, over-sentenced, and over-policed. These are the things that we have to fight against. We cannot add to the rhetoric that, oh, they're in jail because they ain't no good no way. Because they're coming back to us. They're coming back isolated and ostracized, probably wrongly convicted, overly sentenced. How many stories have we read about right here in Alabama? Man sentenced to life for $8 because he's an alleged habitual offender. $8 and you get life in prison. People stealing things to feed their families. The unemployment rate, anytime the unemployment rate is up, so is incarceration, especially in our community, or so-called crime. Is it a crime for a man to steal to feed his family? Is it a crime for a man to want to be able to prosper and live in decent housing? Is it a crime? But they take $800 million to build 3 prisons, not to put into training, not into trade schools, not into retraining. We're in the midst of the worst pandemic in over 100 years. You had 40 million people lose their jobs between February, I believe, and July. About 40 million people. 40 million people lose their jobs or their business. You have, to date, over 212,000 people in this country dead, is the report. 212,000 is what's being reported. You have mass incarceration. You have people being locked away in the midst of a pandemic. Being locked away and overseen by people that come and go, that bring contraband into the prisons. It's the guards. It's the staff that brings in drugs. It's the guards. It's the staff that brings in infection and disease. And our men, women, and children are being warehoused in these prisons that have backed up sewage, have substandard food, some with no heat, some with no air. In Alabama, in Louisiana, Texas, New York, Connecticut, Delaware, all over this country, black men, women, and children are being incarcerated at alarming rates. The prison system as it exists is not broken. It is working exactly the way that it was designed. To warehouse black and browns, people, poor people that are deemed second class or third class citizens. This is what these prisons are for. Nothing more, nothing less. Free labor for corporations to come in and build prisons, and the state says we'll lease them from you and we will give you people to put in those beds. Because you are arrested by the state or agents of the government, by the police. You are prosecuted by prosecutors that are elected officials of the government, and sentenced by judges that are either elected or appointed by this same government, that deem to dole out excessive sentences for non-violent offenders, black and brown, and dole out probation for others that are not of the black and brown persuasion. These are the types of things that we're facing with this prison industrial complex, this prison system that we have in place, or that they have in place. The new prisons that we're talking about here in Alabama will be designed to house 3 times the amount of prisoners that we already have. Alabama currently has 17,000 male inmates in prison alone. 17,000. Now, mind you, Alabama is not a largely populated state. There's under 5 million people in the state of Alabama, and it has 17,000 inmates. Now, those are the males. I'm sorry. Those are just the male inmates. That does not include women, and that does not include what they call a diversion center. Diversion centers are youth facilities for youthful offenders. That does not include them. The 3 new prisons being built can house 10,000 inmates apiece. Where there are extra bodies, where the extra, like I said before, where the extra bodies are going to come from. They're not tearing down any prisons. They're going to build 3 new ones. 3 new ones that can house 10,000 inmates apiece. That's another 30,000. That's at capacity. The prisons as they are now are over capacity. So at least another 30,000 inmates can be housed. Another 30,000 inmates are going to be able to be housed. They're not closing beds. They're not closing any of the state facilities. They're not. These are going to be in addition to. So where are they going to get all these bodies in a state that only has roughly 5 million people in the entire state? The state is going to give it to them. Free labor, free bodies to experiment on, free bodies to torture. So as we heard in the speech earlier, that so many people are put in solitary confinement, and there's only so much solitary that a person can take. Miss Ruth Wilson Gilmore spoke about the effects of solitary confinement, the effects of pitting prisoners against prisoners It helps them do their job. Now, if we're all criminals, if we're all incarcerated because we broke the law, we have a bond. If that's what we did, we have a bond. Why would we fight one another as opposed to fighting those that keep us captive? So again, these made-up gang wars and this segregation in the prisons is something to help keep the prisoners at bay. Sound familiar? They do the same thing to those of us that are not technically incarcerated. Don't work with this one. Don't work with that one. She's light. We can accept her. He's light. We can accept him. Those darker folks, you can't trust. And we perpetrate the same thing on ourselves. So we fight amongst ourselves. Never mind fighting with other folks. We fight amongst ourselves. Because I'm dark and you're light. Or I live in a certain neighborhood and you don't. So we fight over things that don't belong to us. We fight over things that are artificially made up to keep us from focusing on what we need to be fighting for and against. And that's against oppression. From where did it come from? Oppression. Whether it be physically, mentally, or spiritually. We have civic groups that will segregate themselves from certain parts of the population and deem themselves different because of their social circle. So you will have private clubs that won't associate with those people that live down there in the bottoms. We have people taking money out of our communities in the name of God and not helping out. We have people coming in, setting up businesses, raping our people, and not putting back into the community. And again, if I offend you, then I'm talking to you. You are exactly part of the problem. Because if you are a civic organization or a church or any type of political action group and you are doing your thing, my hat goes off to you and I offer my hand to help out any of those that do. But those of you that don't, I'm talking to you. And if you are offended, then you really know I'm talking to you. And the truth is the truth. 7 days a week and twice on Sunday. So, if you are part of the problem, you need to get your act together or get ready to get ejected. Because we can't stand for this anymore. We can't take being taken advantage of from outside the community any more than we can take it from inside of our community. If you are not going to help elevate and liberate our people, then you are a part of the problem. If you are not going to try and help re-educate our people and get our people to stand up and be proud and continue to march on and be good people of this earth, good stewards of this earth and this place that we live in, then you got to go too. If you are going to perpetuate separation by class, by denomination, by politics, then you got to go. Because we're being killed. And none of those things are being factored in. None of them are being factored in. We have to have a black agenda. We have to have a black agenda. We have to get rid of these prisons. Because, again, Alabama is going to build 3 new prisons that are going to house about 10,000 prisoners each at capacity. Now, we know Alabama will operate above capacity, so we're talking about a bare minimum of 10,000 per jail, which is 30,000 people. We know that Alabama only has about 5 million people or so in it. Now you're going to take another 30 to maybe 40,000 and put them in jail because they are not tearing down any of the old ones. This is what we're facing here in Alabama, in Texas, in Louisiana, in Georgia, in New Jersey, in New York, Virginia, all over this country, California. These are the things that we're facing. No money for education, but they can find money to build prisons, to warehouse us and use us as slave labor. Picking vegetables for government-run farms, building furniture for privately owned businesses, answering phones in a call center. And you are still a criminal. They want to take your vote away, take all your power away, take away your ability to provide for yourself and your family, take away your ability to be a productive member of your community. But we will parrot the same rhetoric about needing these prisons while finding out that so many of us have been wrongly accused, wrongly convicted, wrongly prosecuted, and wrongly sentenced. Barely with an apology. Barely with reparations, or never with reparations. You come out of prison, and time has stood still for you while the world has moved on. You go into prison, there are no cell phones. You come out, not only are there cell phones, there are all kinds of devices that you've never seen. How can you be expected to get a job and compete and be a member, a productive member of society, when you have no idea what the newest technology is even like? You have no training. You have no wherewithal to take care of yourself. What are you left to do to provide for you or your family if you still have a family? Or you can't go back to your community because there are too many felons already there. This is what this system does. It isolates, it separates, and we have to do a better job. Black men, black women, our organizations and our churches, we have to do better at restoring those that have been taken from us. Because if we don't do it, no one else will. We cannot continue to condone the mass incarceration of our people, the criminalization of our people. It's not okay. It's not. It is not okay. The police come on, they have a press conference and tell you what this black man or this black woman or this black child did, how bad of a person they are, the things that they did that led up to them being shot in the streets, the things that they did that led up to them being incarcerated. But then we find out it was all made up. Then we find out it was mistaken identity. Then we found out that it didn't happen the way that they said it happened. But the damage is already done. Families ripped apart, lives destroyed. People's futures gone. You get incarcerated as a young man, 19, 20 years old. You do 20, 30 years, you come out. You may be beyond your years to want to have children or to have children. Or women the same way. Take away your youth and your childbearing years. Your impressionable years. And we're supposed to do what with that? Again, you're listening to Real Talk with Herschel, WKCG 99.1. Spot the beat. Those in Alabama. The views expressed today on this show are those of me and any guests that I reflect the views of TOPS, WKCG, and Doris Management. So any thoughts, comments, or suggestions, complaints, please send them to realtalkwithherschel@gmail.com. That's realtalkwithherschel@gmail.com. You can also follow us if you like on Facebook, Real Talk, Real Power. We also have a YouTube channel where we break down the show in smaller segments for you to see. We have lectures and other information on our channel, which is Real Talk with Herschel on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button so that you can get notification as to when. And again, we have a website, realtalkrealpower.org. realtalkrealpower.org. Now, our website is set up for our community. There are smaller groups that can't afford to host a website. If you have a group or an organization that does community work, that does things to uplift our community, please send the information to us at realtalkwithherschel@gmail.com. And we will put you up on our website so that it can go out across the World Wide Web. Again, it's a website, it's for our community, and we will not charge anyone that's doing community-based work. And it's not for profit. We will promote your group. We will get you out there, and we'll try to get you grown to the point that you need to be grown up to. Again, that's something that we here at Real Talk offer to any groups that may not be able to afford promoting themselves on a website. We have a website, and it promotes things that are going to help our community grow. So before we go into our last segment, we're going to go back to Brother Malcolm and his speech in 1964, the ballot or the bullet. And we're going to pick that up, and we're going to come back with our last segment of the show. So again, you'll listen to Real Talk with Herschel, WKCG.
Politics play in our lives. And until we become politically mature, we will always be misled and led astray.
Yeah, the camera work, it's been good, like the whole thing. Like, you've been in the same spot almost, but you've been
I'm trying to,
in there real good. Like, I haven't really touched that at all.
We'll have to carry on a political program of re-education to open our people's eyes, make us become more politically conscious, politically mature. And then whenever we get ready to cast our ballot, that ballot will be cast for a man of the community.
All right, Facebook, appreciate y'all tuning in. Again, please click that like button, like and share us. If you have any thoughts, comments, or suggestions, please send them to realtalkwithherschel@gmail.com. That's our email, realtalkwithherschel@gmail.com.
He got sense enough to look out for himself. And you don't have sense enough to look out for yourself. The white man is too intelligent to let someone else come and gain control of the economy of his community. But you will let anybody come in and control the economy of your community. Control the housing, control the education, control the jobs, control the businesses, under the pretext that you want to integrate. No, you're out of your mind. The economic philosophy of black nationalism only means that we have to become involved in a program of re-education to educate our people into the importance of knowing that when you spend your dollar out of the community in which you live, the community in which you spend your money becomes richer and richer. The community out of which you take your money becomes poorer and poorer. And because these Negroes who have been misled, misguided, are breaking their necks to take their money and spend it with the man. The man is becoming richer and richer, and you're becoming poorer and poorer. And then what happens? The community in which you live becomes a slum. It becomes a ghetto. The conditions become run down. And then you have the audacity to complain about poor housing in a run-down community. Well, you run it down yourself when you open it up. And you and I are in a double track because stores and control the businesses in our community. The man who's controlling the stores in our community is a man who doesn't look like we do. He's a man who doesn't even live in the community. So you and I, even when we try and spend our money in the block where we live, or the area where we live,
Water?
we're spending it with a man who, when the sun goes down, takes
It's
that
probably hot now.
basketful
It's
of
good
money
for
in
the
another
What's
part
the
of the
ice?
I got this at the bottom.
Oh, so you want me to get it with you?
I know it's
So
hot.
we're trapped.
Well,
Trapped.
Well, I avoided it.
it's been an hour, like 30.
Anywhere we go, we find that we're trapped. And every kind of solution that someone comes up with is just another trap. But the political and economic philosophy of black nationalism, the economic philosophy of black nationalism shows our people the importance of setting up these little stores and developing them and expanding them into larger operations. Woolworth didn't start out big like they are today. They started out with a dime store and expanded and expanded and expanded until today they're all over the country and all over the world, and they're getting some of everybody's money. Now, this is what you and I in General Motors, the same way it didn't start out like it is. It started out just a little rat race type operation. And it expanded and expanded until today is where it is right now. And you and I have to make a start. And the best place to start is right in the community where we live. So our people not only have to be re-educated to the importance of supporting black business, but the black man himself has to be made aware of the importance of going into business. And once you and I go into business, we own and operate at least the businesses in our community. What we will be doing is developing a situation wherein we will actually be able to create employment for the people in the community. And once you can create some employment in the community where you live, it will eliminate the necessity of you and me having to act ignorantly and disgracefully, boycotting and picketing some cracker someplace else, trying to beg him for a job. Anytime you have to rely upon your enemy for a job, you're in bad shape. When he is your enemy, it ain't that you wouldn't be in this country if some enemy hadn't kidnapped you and brought you here. On the other hand, some of you think you came here on the Mayflower. So as you can see, brothers and sisters, today, this afternoon, it's not our intention.
What you're listening to is Malcolm X, 1964, ballot or the bullet?
And the best way to keep away from
Ballot or ballot?
Ballot.
as I said earlier, put your religion at home, in the closet. Keep it between you and your God. Because if it hasn't done anything more for you than it has, you need to forget it anyway. Whether you are a Christian or a Muslim or a nationalist, we all have the same problem. They don't hang you because you're a Baptist, they hang you because you're black. They don't attack me because I'm a Muslim, they attack me because I'm black. They attack all of us for the same reason. All of us catch hell from the same enemy. We're all in the same bag, in the same boat. We suffer political oppression, economic exploitation, and social degradation. All of them from the same enemy. The government has failed us. You can't deny that. Anytime you live in the 20th century, 1964, and you walking around here singing, "We shall overcome," the government has failed.
And still in 2020. Still in 2020.
This is part of what's wrong with you. You do too much singing. Today it's time to stop singing and start swinging.
All right, welcome back to Real Talk with Herschel. on WKCG 99.1 on your FM dial. Now, again, the thoughts expressed today on this show, the thoughts and views expressed today on this show are those of me and any guests that I may have, and do not necessarily reflect those of TOPS, WKCG, and or its management. Now, I was about to go into another topic, and I just want to address the comment that I got on Facebook from a gentleman that I know very well. And he made a statement about some of the criminals being hardened criminal, and some of them do need to be locked up forever and don't need to get out. And I understand your sentiment, brother, but let me explain something to you. And let's be very clear about this. Some people are hardened criminals because it's by design. When you have drugs dropped into a community, when you have guns dropped into a community, when you have jobs taken out of a community, you create a situation, you create a vacuum, and you create a criminal element. You create people having to feed themselves and do whatever it is they have to do to survive, or what they perceive as survival. Then you put these same people into a prison system, and you mistreat them, and you pit them against one another, and your very survival depends on your ability to kill or not be killed. You develop a mentality. Some people go to jail as innocent people and come out as hardened criminals. You're absolutely right. But who decides what is criminal activity and what is not? Isn't it criminal to deny a man a job because of the color of his skin? Isn't it criminal to shut down a school where children can't be educated? Isn't it criminal to starve out a whole segment of a society? Isn't it criminal to deny services to these same people and expect them to live like everyone else, or to abide by the laws of the land? Isn't that criminal, brother? So before you just criminalize everyone, or decide that people are the way they are of their own volition, that's not always the case. Don't get me wrong. There are people that are antisocial and don't belong in society. But we have no say in our community who belongs and who doesn't. And that's in lies the problem. We don't have a say in what we will and won't tolerate in our community, because we have no control in our community. We don't have control of the resources. So the things that are deemed criminal by the same people that starve us out, these people that deem that drugs are illegal are the same ones that drop the drugs excuse me, in our community. These same people that drop guns mysteriously in our community are the same people that deem having a gun in that community is illegal. So who is the criminal? Before we start espousing the same crappy rhetoric about hardened criminals, who hardened them and who made them criminals? There are some that do not belong in our society. Again, like I said, which is very true. But we have no say in who does and doesn't belong. And that in itself, my brother, is the problem. Now I got that off my chest. We're going back to what Brother Malcolm said. Part of what he said, and I ended it there strategically, and for a purpose. Like he said, and this was 1964, I am not and will not ever disparage anyone that fought for the freedom and the liberation of black people anywhere. Whether I agree with the attack or not, I will not disparage that. So those that marched and died, don't get me wrong. Don't misquote me, and don't say that I'm disparaging it. It served its purpose. It got the Voters' Right Act passed, enacted, without one trip to the ballot box. It served its purpose, and it was successful and what they were trying to do. Different times call for different tactics. The same tactic won't work in every instance, is the only thing that I'm saying. I am not disparaging, or nor will I ever disparage a black man that stood up or gave his life in the battle for our liberation. I may not always agree with the methodology, but I can agree with the passion and the dedication, and will defend and fight with and for them to do it their way. Because again, there's always more than one way to skin a cat. And we are fighting this battle on many fronts, and we have to try many different things and see what works. Now, the reason I'm saying all of this is because we're in a new time, and the younger folks of today are in a different place. And most uprisings, most wars, most revolutions are going to be fought by the youth and driven by the youth, of which I'm just outside of the youth. And it is indicative that everyone, I don't care what your philosophy is, that you back these young folks and you encourage them to fight. All of those that can fight need to fight. Those that can't can provide aid and comfort. Understand, whatever goes on for all of us. It goes on for all of us. Either we're all going to be free or we're all going to be still in bondage. We can't be half free and half in bondage. I can't be free when my brother's locked up in this prison, being abused, taken advantage of, criminalized, and just isolated away from everything that we know in society, in our own society. We're too comfortable with policing and the idea that policing is necessary. Again, the police as we know it today was born out of slave catchers. The prison system as we know it was born out of a need to control a certain population. We have no say in the laws that govern us. So what is deemed illegal by the system that we live under, our colonizing laws, may be deemed illegal in their society, but not in ours. Your very existence is criminal. You are a criminal by birth. Your blackness makes you criminal. So again, with that being a reality, how comfortable are you with saying that criminals need to be locked up? What makes me criminal? I stole something to feed my family. I was let go because I was the only black person there, and I can't feed my family. My landlord wants his money. Don't care that I got laid off. I become desperate, not criminal. I have a wife at home that's saying, fix it, husband. I have children saying, what are we going to do, Daddy? So, in the eyes of white society, I am a criminal for trying to feed my family. I've done what the system said do. I've applied for jobs, but I was qualified. I've been harassed for going into neighborhoods where the jobs are because I don't belong there. I've been criminalized for my very existence. And we are too comfortable with this reality that is the United States. We are too comfortable with the notion that the function of watching our communities and our neighborhoods and protecting our institutions should be placed in the hands of a system that at best is indifferent to our very existence. Again, the system is not broken. You cannot fix the system or anything that is not broken. Only thing you're doing is switching out parts. The system is working fine. The system is working the way that it was set up. It's an ugly truth and an ugly reality. The system is not broken. It does not need to be reformed. It needs to be abolished and rebuilt from scratch. It needs to be replaced. We don't make the laws that govern us. We don't have a say in the laws that govern us. So we have to live by someone else's rules. So what you deem illegal may not be illegal in my eyes or in our eyes as a community. So you criminalize my very existence. And there's nothing I can do about it because this don't come off. People become desperate. People will try and do anything to survive. Most of the so-called criminal activity that nobody's going to get rich doing any of those things. Nobody's going to become a millionaire being a local drug dealer. They're not. They're not. But when you can't even get a decent job to pay your rent, you can't get a job where you can even pay the $500 deposit that you have to pay for built-in utilities to get your lights and water turned on, and you're making $7.50 an hour, it don't add up. So you become desperate. You don't become a criminal, you become desperate. And we as a people have to stop criminalizing desperate people that look like us. A living wage is what people need, not a handout. Nobody's looking for government to give you anything except a fair chance. One thing, again, as we said in Malcolm's speech, we have to learn to control our own economics. And part of that starts with our thinking. When someone opens up a business in our community, we need to support them. Again, if the service is right, the products are right, why are we still going outside and not trusting and supporting one another? We allow people to come into our neighborhoods and open up their businesses, take our money out of our community and enrich their own. You can't open up a black business in a white neighborhood, in an Asian neighborhood, or in a Jewish neighborhood. And I don't think that is discriminatory, it's intelligent. They want people in their communities that are going to support their community. That's intelligent. That's not discriminatory. That is intelligent. So the same way, we can sell groceries, we can make shoes, we can sell hair products. All the things that we allow people to do in our communities, we can do. We have to free our minds and support one another. We have to free our minds and patronize one another and keep that money circulating in our community. We have to do for those that do for us. Now, if a business is in our community, it should be beneficial to our community. But so many of the businesses that are in our community, they take our money out of our community. They don't support the school systems. They don't support after-school programs. They don't support anything in our community. Why are we patronizing? They don't live here. They don't pay taxes here. Why are we supporting them? Again, other cultures keep their communities with their own businesses. And again, there's nothing at all wrong with that. It's very intelligent. And we need to do the same. Keep our dollars in our community for longer than they are. Because what happens when you support businesses that don't support your community, your hard-earned money goes right back out. Your hard-earned money goes right back out. As opposed to someone that lives in your community. It's going to help keep his house up or her house up. When this person is going to help support the booster in the school system where you live at. They're going to help keep the community with what it needs because they're invested in that community. This is what we need. I say the best segment for last. Now, I've talked about self-defense, self-reliance, and pride in our community. This week, there's a story, or is a story, an ongoing investigation in Michigan, where a group of militia men were plotting to kidnap a residing governor. The ones that they apprehended were 5 men from Michigan and 1 from Delaware. What does this have to do with anything? You have a segment of white supremacists, or a white supremacist segment of white society that wants to overthrow the government, that wants to start a race war, that believes in white supremacy. We have a system that upholds a lot of these views, if not all of them. There's something in the air, and it's real. You have people that are calling for a civil war, a race war, whatever you want to call it. You have a president that will not denounce or disavow this type of behavior. Instead, he says, stand down and stand by. That means wait for the word. Hold up, let me see if I get reelected. If not, I'll give you the word and you do what you gotta do. Again, here at Real Talk, we're gonna keep it real. I am not promoting taking over the government. I am not promoting getting your gun, going out killing white folks or anybody else. What I am promoting, and I'm going to make this very clear, is that you learn, if you have not, to defend yourself. Defend your family and your neighborhood. These white supremacists are training and they're gearing up for war with you and me and the government if they get in the way. Which they may not get in the way, they may give them a pass, take them to McDonald's when it's over. Now, it would only be intelligent for you, black man, black woman, to, if you haven't already, train yourself or get ready for whatever may come. Listen to what I'm saying to you, my black family, my black and brown family. There's something coming. Just like you board your windows up and get your supplies ready for the storm, for an impending storm, we have a government that fans the flames of racism and white supremacy. It's always been there, but they're pouring gasoline on that fire right now. And what I'm saying to my black and brown family is get ready. stand down and stand by. Those of you that are well trained and well versed in self-defense and doing what needs to be done, need to start training your neighbors, your mothers, your fathers, your aunts, your uncles, and your children. Because this is what they're doing. Again, I'm not talking about going out, kidnapping anyone. I am not saying go out and kill anyone. What I'm saying is, if you come to my house, you will not leave the same way. Defend yourself. Defend your family. Do not allow people to come into your community and just destroy it. We can't allow that anymore. There are pockets of us that are ready. There's probably more than you know that are training and doing what needs to be done. But I'm telling everyone under the sound of my voice that it's coming. Now, I can't tell you how bad it's going to be. I can't tell you when it's going to be. No more than the weatherman. It's a prediction. And the prediction is by the signs that are out there. This election season has been very strange, very, I don't even know the right word to describe what this election cycle has been. But it's very ugly. I'm not going to live on my knees, and neither should you. I'm not going to stand around and pray for my oppressor or someone that wants to subjugate me to something, pray for them to have a change of heart. It's not going to happen. Just like you said, Mr. A-Train, some people are just evil. That goes for everybody, brother. Not just us or people that are locked up that look like us. There's some evil people out here. And no amount of praying is going to keep them off of your behind. What I'm saying is be ready to defend yourself. Before people say that I'm espousing hate, only thing I'm saying is what the Constitution says in the Second Amendment, with your right to bear arms and protect your property. The Bible and the Quran tell you that. Any doctrine that you follow will tell you self-defense is not a sin. What I'm telling you is something may be coming. Just like we're getting ready for this storm to hit, people are closing their businesses and boarding their windows. It might pass over. It might. It may not be as bad as they say. It could be cataclysmic. Could wipe out everything. But the thing to do is to be ready for when it does come. You board your windows up, you get water, get your supplies, you get your batteries, you get your candles, you make sure you got matches and food and ice and everything else. So the same thing. There's a lot going on in the world. If it comes, be ready for it, is what I'm saying to you, black and brown family. People of faith, gather your strength. It makes no sense to see an impending storm coming or a possibility and you not be ready. It's better to be ready and nothing happens than to get caught with your pants down, because it may cost you and your family their life. There are some very ugly people out here in this world, and they don't mean you any good. They don't care that you're a Christian. They don't care that you're a pastor or a priest or an imam. They don't care that you're a holy man or a holy woman. They don't care. And they will shoot you down in the streets just as sure as your skin is black. That man didn't give you your life. He has no right to take it. But you do have every right to defend that life, even if it means taking another life. You have a right to defend your children in your home. That is your God-given right and duty. It is your God-given right to protect your family. We have to stop playing. We have to call it for what it is and say it plain. I spoke last week about being mindful of things that you put into your body. Same way, you have to be mindful of the things that you put into your mind. We have to get our minds, our bodies, and our soul, our spirit right. Black people, we have to stand up for ourselves as a people. We have to stand together. We have to defend one another. There is no way that anybody should be able to come into your community and abuse anyone and be allowed to leave. There's no way that someone can set up shop in your community and overcharge your community, your children, abuse verbally your children or your women, and still be allowed to operate. That's asinine. That's dumb. We have to take it from each other. Why would we take it from anyone else? We'll fight each other because someone disrespected us. Well, when they come from outside, we have to be just as outraged, if not more. Don't let people disrespect your home, your existence, your children, your loved ones. Freedom, your peace of mind. Stand up. Get ready for this fight. Feed your mind, feed your spirit, and get ready for this fight. Because it's coming. I can't tell you how bad it's going to be, but it's coming. And you have these supremacists out here, and they are serious, and they're getting ready. What you going to do? You come through 3rd Street. Huh? What you going to do? They come down to 4th Country. Huh? Go hide? Let them burn your house down? Huh? What you going to do if they come through with bottles? Pop it off. Huh? You going to stand and fight? Or you going to lay down and die? It's time. It's beyond time. We have to stand up and fight shoulder to shoulder. We have to stand up and fight for one another. Give a damn about a blood, a Crip, Latin King. We're all black and brown. We need to stand together. Because they're coming. They don't care about Crip or blood. The only thing that these folks are looking for is black faces. They don't care about you, preacher. They don't care about you. They don't care about you, woman of God. All they know is that your face is black. They don't care about you, black Republican. They don't care. All they need to know is that you are black. And that's all they need to do to attack you. They don't need to know if you're straight or gay. They don't need to know that. transgender, gender neutral, whatever. They don't care. They don't care. We have to defend one another the same way. I don't care what your politics are, as long as you're black. I have to defend you, and vice versa. We got to get this through our heads. As long as we stay divided, we will stay defeated. But if we fight, and we fight together, we can win. Let them come. Let them come. Don't let them leave. Like I said, we're talking about self-defense. You come to my place, I got something to fight. You ain't gonna leave the same way you came in. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about overthrowing the government or going out here starting anything. But I am talking about finishing. They started, we got to finish it. No longer can we just sit on the sideline and pray for a change in people's hearts and minds, because it ain't going to happen. It hasn't happened in over 400 years. It ain't going to happen today or tomorrow. It's only gotten worse. So again, get ready for the storm, black folks. Get ready for the storm. Get ready to defend yourselves, your family, and your homes, your communities. Because again, what black power and black nationalism is about equality, not supremacy. It's about dignity and pride. It's not about ruling over or taking over anything or anyone. It's about self-reliance. It's about self-determination. It's about self-defense. That's what it's about. Make no mistakes. So get ready. Stay ready. Stand by. This is Real Talk with Herschel, live WKCG 99.1 on your FM dial. You can catch us here every Saturday at 11 a.m. Central Time. That's 12 o'clock on the East Coast, and that's what? Where we at? 9 o'clock a.m. on the West Coast. Now, again, if you have any thoughts, suggestions, or comments, please send them to realtalkwithherschel@gmail.com, and we will address your concern. Until next week at 11, I will bid you peace and love. And like I said, stay ready, and stand by. All right, Facebook, appreciate you. Hit that like and share button. Huh?